Well, hello there, YouTube. Thanks for checking out this video. Thanks for hanging with us. Go ahead and hit that like button, and while you're at it, feel free to subscribe and press the alerts so you get notified when we go live. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. It is Wednesday, April 20th, 420 for those who prefer the numerical versus the word version of it. If you're watching on YouTube, it's Tuesday, April 19th, and we are going to talk some more NFL draft. Joining me to rank quarterbacks and then to talk about our confidence level in quarterbacks, Ryan Wilson, Chris Trapasso. What's up, boys?
Hey.
How's it going, guys?
It's going. So by the time this comes out, the audio version, we will be 8 days away from the draft, right? Is that right?
I don't know. You're the sure show. What day is it coming out?
It's 420. Draft's 428.
That's right.
There you go.
Good math.
Easy math.
Yeah.
I'm at home alone with my dog, and since I'm so benevolent, I decided to leave the door open to my office so George could wander around. He has already come up here and picked up, and now he's threatening to tear up this could get ugly. Anyway, let's just podcast and we'll just pretend that George isn't here.
Talk about Groundhog Day with the draft. It's Groundhog Day with you and your canine and human parenting skills. It's the same thing every day. You don't learn.
Well, I was going to try to take him for a walk before the podcast, and then I realized that I didn't have time and I didn't want to delay the podcast.
You realized it was 5 minutes before the start of the podcast?
It's like 12:59, yada, yada, yada. Can't walk around the block.
I just watched that one the other day, too. Great episode.
Oh, yeah. It's fantastic. Is she yada, yada sex? I think she yada, yada sex. Anywho, we're gonna rank quarterbacks. Also, if you want a 5-star review, if you want a mailbag question answered for either, you probably got to do it right now if you want a draft mailbag question answered. Actually, it's probably too late for a 5-star, but leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcast.
And we're taking 2023 draft questions, so you can leave those reviews now too. Sure. We'll get to those.
Who is Ryan's Jake Fromm?
I hope you're going to say QB1, and the answer was going to be Jake Fromm.
Yeah, I'm not setting myself up like that. I'm not that stupid. I mean, I probably am that stupid, but I'm not that.
Not that stupid.
Yeah, this dog is a menace to society. Anyway, we're going to talk quarterback rankings. We've talked about these quarterbacks a lot, but not really as much maybe as we did last year because
no way.
And I mean, frankly, I think the top 10 in this draft is going to end up being 4 edge rushers. There he is.
George disagrees.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm going to anyway,
It's
4 edge
fine.
rushers.
He's fine. The dog's
2 cornerbacks, 1 wide receiver.
That's 8.
And 3 offensive linemen. That was 7, I think.
No QBs, right?
Yeah, but I was talking with Pete Prisco about this. He was like, I agree, but a lot of guys around the league think that there will be 2 quarterbacks taken in the top 10, which is just, I mean, it's kind of crazy. And I don't think you'll find anybody that has a ranking of these quarterbacks where everyone's like, well, that's it. That's the list.
Well, we talked about this yesterday, and I'm sure you've talked about it with Traps and Josh. Where are they going? Like, where are they going?
Well, Carolina, Atlanta, and Seattle is the 3 top 10 landing spots.
They're not going 6.
I mean, I don't think you can just blindly rule that out.
I'm telling you right now. By the way, as I mentioned, I was talking to your buddy Adam Gold on Raleigh. What station is it?
99.9 The Fan.
And we were talking about, tell me what you think of this trade scenario for both teams. I'm going to have to talk about this in HQ later as well.
If the Panthers get out of 6, yes, blindly.
Okay. Next question.
No, but yeah, what's the where are they going?
The Saints trade up from 16. So they give up 16, 49, and a 2023 second rounder to get to 6.
In the division.
Yeah, that's spicy. Scott Fitterer, by the way, the Panthers GM, a noted trade back junkie. He traded back 4 times, I think, at least in his first draft last year. He wasn't responsible for losing. He did trade the 3rd round pick for CJ Henderson, but he wasn't there when they traded for Sam Darnold. So, I mean, an in-division trade seems kind of crazy. Who are the Saints coming up to get?
So the Saints are going to get an offensive lineman. They're getting Charles Cross at 6. They're not getting a quarterback. And then I have the Panthers taking. They can take a quarterback at 16, Kenny Pickett if he's there, or they can take an offensive lineman, Trevor Penning if he's there, and then they can get someone like Sam Howell perhaps at 49, or even move up a little bit, get Sam Howell at 49, and then they have a day 2 pick. They'll have a day 2 pick next year, and the math works out if you look at either Rich Hill or our buddy RJ White's their draft trade value chart. There is the interdivisional thing, but if you're the Panthers and you want to get out of there, and you don't love the quarterbacks, you may be fine with the Saints coming up to get a quarterback. And then also, in this one I had Kenny Pickett. They could take Kenny Pickett at 16, feel much better about it, and then get someone like Luke Gedeke out of Central Michigan in the middle of round 2. And I think he's going to be really good as an offensive tackle. So that was just something to spark the conversation about the Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea. The interdivisional thing is a little dicey just because, like, what if Charles Cross is an elite left tackle and the Panthers gave up the opportunity to draft him in order to move back and take Kenny Pickett?
Fair enough.
I just think this stuff sounds kind of dumb, but it does matter. Like, from an optic standpoint, if you're Scott Fitterer and you trade out of 6 and you end up getting Kenny Pickett later, and Charles Cross is an elite left tackle that's blocking Brian Burns like stonewalling Brian Burns for the next 5 years, then it's going to be something that sticks with the fan base. It'd be a talking point. And I think that's at least something that you walk through in your head before you make that deal. But in terms of
I'm doing it.
No, but just in terms of a general approach to this, yeah, the Panthers should should be dying to get out of 6, I think. Traps, your thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree. I like what Ryan proposed, even though I've been on if the Saints trade up, that needs to be for a quarterback. But if you can tell me that they could still get Kenny Pickett at 16, or like Ryan mentioned, trade up later to get that 5th-year option on Sam Howell in the back part of the 1st, or maybe early 2nd, I would be down for it. We did have last year the Devontae Smith, Micah Parsons. That was a trade with the Eagles and the Cowboys that we kind of thought we would never see, especially on draft night on the clock. But we could see that again.
I don't disagree with your point at all, Traps, but let's not forget that was a trade orchestrated between 2 hated division rivals, but it was one that was designed to screw over a 3rd division rival by letting the Eagles leapfrog the Giants to get Devontae Smith. So, I mean, like, there is some – it's like, hey, we don't really want to trade with the Eagles, but if they are hosing the Giants –
But in this situation, they could be hosing the Falcons at 8 that could maybe be interested in an offensive tackle too.
There you go.
Could be. I mean, we don't usually see in-division trades. I mean, we all know that, but it's happened. There's some precedent for it just in last year's draft.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I'm the Panthers,
they should trade out for sure.
They should get Baker Mayfield and then draft a left tackle at 6, or trade out of 6 and get more picks. You don't have a 2nd or 3rd round pick. You don't have a great. I'm not going to call them stupid. I'm not going to rip their roster again.
Oh, I forgot they were mad at you. That's right.
I know. I replied and got.
Nothing. Oh, you had to grovel. I love that.
I didn't really. I mean,
you 100% grovel.
Yeah, it's like
listen. I'll say it. The roster's not good.
I mean, it's not a good roster.
Oh, he didn't say that. He called him a clown show, and
I was salty that I said a lot of things that were sort of like kind of over the top and maybe on purpose.
Out of line, sir.
Out of line. Look. Also, I would make the argument that you can't. I mean, you can't really say. How can you say this roster could have the number 1 pick? It's like, well, this roster currently has the number 6 pick. So like, it's entirely possible. The Panthers should trade back. The Panthers should not take a quarterback at 6. I am not comfortable saying the Panthers won't take a quarterback at 6 until this Baker Mayfield deal that seems to be percolating actually happens.
Well, let me ask you this. Is there any like Scott Fitterer, Matt Rule, like infighting going on? Like we're apparently hearing with the Jaguars that like half the Jaguars front office wants Trevon Walker. Doug Peterson might want a left tackle. Some other people want Aiden Hutchinson. Like, do we know, is there any bit like Matt Rule wants to go with his guy, his former Temple recruit in Kenny Pickett? Or is it like Scott Fitterer running the show? He's going to trade back because that's what he does.
So I think this is actually
I don't know that answer.
Well, and I was texting with Prisco and Costos about this, and JB Eisenberg about this earlier. It's interesting because Fitterer's making the call on who they draft, I think.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think Fitterer takes that job if he's going to have final say on who they pick in the draft. I mean, obviously he collaborates with Rule, but there is sort of a, this happens with organizations.
There's someone else he's got to collaborate with.
as the big boss.
Yeah.
The big boss, David Tepper. Anyway, this happens with teams that are picking in the top 10 and haven't won a lot of games often. And the Panthers have won 10 games the last 2 years. Indisputable fact. What happens
Covering
is,
yourself there.
I know. What happens is you get the GM, the coach, and the owner all have now competing interest. Matt Rule wants to win now so he doesn't get fired. David Tepper wants to win now, but he also wants to build up a roster. And Scott Fitterer will probably survive a 5-win season. Matt Rule probably will not. So Scott Fitterer is thinking, I need to get the best players on this roster in order to be prepared to compete at some point in the future with whoever my next coach may or may not be. Whereas Matt Rule's like, I got to win 8 games in 2022 or else I'm out. And so that's where you really get into trouble as an organization. This has happened with the Giants. The Jets do it like every 3 years. You see it all the time. And so I just sort of wonder what will be the driving force for how all of this plays out on draft night. You know what I mean?
Okay. Well, let me put it to you this way. Let's say they take whoever your favorite quarterback is at number 6. Traps likes Malik Willis. So they take Malik Willis at 6. How many games does that team win in next year?
If they take Malik Willis at 6?
And don't take an offensive tackle till the 4th round, pick 137.
I mean, 5?
Best case, probably, right?
Best case. I mean, I think they could get to 8 if like everything broke right. And
I mean, by everything, you mean
everything.
The other 31 teams get hit by asteroids at the exact same time.
Right. I'm just saying, I mean, like
they're still losing 9 games.
We've seen teams, even bad teams get extremely lucky.
My point is this, that they're going to be bad next year. Maybe the year after they figure out the offensive line. Who knows? But if you're firing guys, then you're bringing in a new coach, new system, may not like the quarterback. And it's like a vicious cycle. That's why
exactly. And you have to find a coach who's like, who comes in and is like, I'm going to get the most out of Malik Willis. Like,
and I say this all the time. So let's talk about previous recent 6 overall picks. The person taking 6 at Carolina, whoever your favorite quarterback is he more likely to be like A, Justin Herbert, or B, Daniel Jones?
B.
It's not even close.
Yeah, it's not even close. All right, well, we talk about the Panthers. Yeah, I feel like we talk about the Panthers too much, but I do feel like they are sort of
they're sitting there at 6, so they're
the two linchpins for this draft. I mean, obviously you have one with the Jaguars, but I think the first 3 picks probably play out, fairly. I don't want to say obvious fashion, but I think it would be surprising if we didn't have a small pool to predict the top 3 picks. 4 with the Jets is really interesting, and then 6 with the Panthers changes everything because it's if you go quarterback. The trickle down effect is massive, and if you trade out or go offensive line, same sort of deal. So I don't like talking about them a ton, but I think they are a pretty important piece for this draft. So let's talk about those quarterbacks. Wilson, poor Nada back there. He ranked the quarterbacks in this draft up like 5 minutes ago, and then had to take it down.
He had no idea what he was getting into.
Wilson. Give me your top 5 quarterbacks in order in this draft.
You think when Debo goes on these job interviews for better jobs and the other remaining producers have to draw the short stick and Nada keeps drawing the short stick, he's like, what's going on? We got to get new sticks.
I need new sticks. By the way, I think Debo's actually in the chat. Toss up Eric Early's comment, Nada, in there. Look, Debo showed up with with a burner account. Can impede for MVP, baby. Eric Early writes in the chat. That is a Debo through and through.
Embiid. Oh, I think you said NP. I was like Nate Peterman. I was like, who? Embiid. Gotcha.
Embiid, baby. Joel Embiid.
All right, my quarterback rankings. Number 1, I haven't come off this since the fall, is Matt Corral. Not necessarily a popular opinion, but again, this draft class, you could name just about anybody, and you have a 12% chance of being right. I have Sam Howell number 2. I didn't like Sam Howell at the beginning of the year. That Virginia Tech game really soured me on him. Went back and watched 3 or 4 more games before the Senior Bowl. And I liked him. I thought he drug that team up and down the field in a lot of ways and either got them close to wins or got them wins. I was sort of impressed with what he was able to do. I thought his footwork got better from 2020 to 2021. Having Malik Willis 3rd because of the upside. I mean, there are obviously questions there. Liberty offense, yada, yada, yada. Kenny Pickett's 4. I'm not high on Kenny Pickett. I think he's a 2nd-round guy. he'll probably go in the first round, and that's fine. I think there's some questions about consistency. There's some questions about arm strength. That's okay. If he goes 6 and he has a great career, that's awesome. If he goes middle of the first round and does well, that's great too. I think landing spot's gonna be important for him. Which you can say about anybody. And then Des Ritter 5.
That is a extremely not that there's a consensus for these rankings, but I mean I would say that yours fly in the face of whatever convention there is out there.
Yeah, well, I've talked to teams that think Kenny Pickett's
I
second
don't mean
round
that in
pick.
a bad way. I just
No, I agree, and I've made I've had a bunch of conversations about this because I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. And I've talked to 4 teams that think Kenny Pickett's a second round pick. I've talked to another team that thinks he's going to go in the first round because he's the best of the group. Des Ritter is sort of the same thing. I've heard second and third round grade on Des Ritter, and I've heard the talking point that I lean on because I don't want to say Desmond Ritter is going to be a bad player. The accuracy things are a huge red flag for me. But as Trap's going to test, Josh Allen didn't complete a lot of passes at Wyoming. Turns out he's a pretty good quarterback. So I don't want to shut the door on Desmond Ritter. But I've talked to 4 teams that think he's a day 2 guy, and I've talked to a team that said, look, started 50 games, great leader, athletic, does a lot of things well, could sneak it to the first. And I get it. I get it. I wouldn't want my team to draft Desmond Ritter in the first round. In fact, in this group, I'd be okay with the Steelers taking Matt Corral. I'd be okay with Malik Willis, and that's it in round 1. The other guys in round 2 make more sense to me, personally, in terms of these rankings.
I don't. And by the way, we've got the rankings from CBSSports.com up on the site. What are those your rankings, Traps?
I think they're aggregate.
That's aggregate. That's all of us.
Okay.
Myself, Ryan, and Josh. Yeah.
So I guess Wilson's ranking of Sam Howell second pulled him above Ritter. Ritter 74th overall prospect. Malik Willis the 23rd. Kenny Pickett 30. Matt Corral 33. Sam Howell 47. Desmond Ritter 74. Wilson. Traps, if you want to dive in on it too, I'm curious. So if you draft Matt Corral, can he play for any team? Does it need to be an RPO based offense? Does it? I guess because I think that sort of identifies what sort of landing spots we might have for Matt Corral, Wilson's top prospect.
Yeah, I think he needs to. I think he's a long ways away from being ready to go starter. I think because of the RPO stuff, it's weird that like Lane Kiffin's offense, I think it produces a lot of high level results at the college level, but it doesn't really get these quarterbacks ready for the NFL. I mean, Tua turned out that he wasn't really that ready to come in and be a starter in the NFL coming from that Lane Kiffin offense when he was at Alabama. That's my one concern with him. I think I like Matt Corral's athleticism. I like that he toned down on the interceptions this past season, got a big arm, but I think he's just not ready to read the full field. And I didn't really like his accuracy down the field. Like my quarterback rankings are a lot more conventional than Ryan's, but I definitely respect him for going out there on a limb and just staying with his genuine evaluations. I certainly know all about doing that in the past.
Wilson, do you think Corral can play for anybody?
Well, he is an RPO guy. I mean, he told us at the combine, and Josh may have actually asked him this question too on the Pick 6 video YouTube extravaganza, and he said the one thing about playing in Lane's offense is that Lane brought a lot of things from the NFL, brought a lot of things from the Raiders, and we incorporated that in offense, and it helped me when I was on the board with these NFL teams in these meetings. Because I knew exactly what we were talking about, and they knew exactly. I knew the reads, I knew the pre-snap, what to do, and I needed to go with the ball based on the coverage. And I think he felt like that helped him. And he also told us that one of the issues, and Traps mentioned this, he threw 14 interceptions in 2020, and he said I just didn't understand what the coverages, what they were doing. And basically, he said they were just dropping 8 the whole time, and I kept trying to force the ball down the field. I'd look guys off. And it didn't matter because they're dropping 8. You don't look anyone off when you're dropping 8 because there are 8 guys standing around. I kept throwing interceptions. I couldn't figure it out. And Lane likes to be aggressive down the field, but he also doesn't want you turning the ball over. So he said what I figured out pretty quickly is that you just take the checkdowns. You take what's there underneath. That's then going to open things up down the field. And that's why we saw the fewer interceptions. I think he had 5 last season as opposed to the 14. And he credited that a lot with just being patient and understanding what he was being asked to do in the confines of that offense. I'm not concerned about what that looks like at the next level, playing in Lane Kiffin's offense, because I think that's the way that the league is going. I was looking something up for something for the sort of draft trade scenario thing that I was talking about for another team. I mean, Lamar Jackson, when we talked about that trade up a few weeks ago, Brinson, when the Ravens came back into the bottom of the first round, DJ had him as his 47th best player. We just don't know. Like, we have no idea. Like, the only person that knows anything is me and Mac Jones. Everything else, we're all just, shots in the dark. It's just, you have no freaking idea.
Well, I mean, the thing about Lamar Jackson too, and this applies to all quarterbacks really, is that like, you shouldn't be drafting, and this is where teams get in a lot of trouble, frankly. They're like, all right, we need a quarterback. Who's the best quarterback out there? And it's different if it's like Trevor Lawrence and you have the number one overall pick. I mean, that's an easy projection and pick. But if you're a team like the Ravens, who said, all right, we're going to trade back into the first round and we're going to get Lamar Jackson. And then we are going to take our roster and build around Lamar Jackson, or the Bills, where they built up this roster and they said, now we're going to drop a guy like Josh Allen in. It has to be part the evaluation, part the projection, and then part, making sure that there's a system around the quarterback, or that you're catering to the quarterback's strengths and trying to mitigate the quarterback's weaknesses, rather than just being like, run my offense.
I don't say this often, but that's a great point, because prior to that, it was Joe Flacco, and you're not bringing in a Lamar Jackson type quarterback to run Joe Flacco's offense. Right. So listen, Matt Corral ain't Lamar Jackson. I think we can all agree on that. And I like him more than most people. And, we'll see how it plays out. That's fine. But I think if you like him, then you have to consider parts of your offense going to have to look differently if you're not an RPO offense. And maybe that's something to consider as well. Now, I don't know where that fits in terms of where these teams are drafting. And Corral probably ends up going in the second round. Although, as I said before, if the Steelers took him at 20, I'd be okay with that. I mean, Matt Canada's offense fits Matt Corral, but Matt Canada's offense last year looked like it was being coordinated by George the Dog. So who knows what that's going to look like. My apologies,
George. No, currently asleep on the couch. Oh, sorry, George. I just wasn't he was asleep on the couch until I said his name out loud. He just looked at me and said, "Keep your name off my lips." Bro.
I know, exactly.
All right, Straps. Let's move along. Actually, we'll go to your rankings. You have a almost inverse ranking of Ryan Wilson here. Give me your top 5 quarterbacks.
Yeah, I will see Ryan's unconventional rankings and raise him pretty conventional rankings. Malik Willis 1. I think the big time throw ability aligns with Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, all quarterbacks who had a lot of question marks, whether they were raw or, for Herbert's sake, too timid or took too many chances, like Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech. So he's my number 1. I think he can make those difficult throws at a higher rate, more so than any other quarterback in this class. Then I have Kenny Pickett. You see some of that too. You see some Joe Burrow to his game, not nearly as accurate as Joe Burrow, but I think he taps into all the athleticism that he has, eluding pass rushers in the pocket, outside the pocket, just like Joe Burrow. Desmond Ritter is my number 3. I think he's not quite as athletic as he showed at the combine. Like, he's not running by linebackers and safeties at the next level. Wasn't really that type of player at Cincinnati, but like Ryan said, 44-6 as a starter, seen every coverage, seen every blitz, played Georgia, played Alabama, doesn't make a lot of bad decisions. And I think some teams will like that high floorness to his game. After that, I have Matt Carrell and Sam Howell. To me, they're very similar prospects. I like the traits in terms of they have big arms. They like to stretch the football down the field, but I don't really think they're very accurate down the field. And Matt Corral more so than Sam Howell, which is probably why he's my number 4 and Howell's my 5. The running ability, I don't think, is going to translate even like half of what they're able to do. Sam Howell is, I don't think, that great of an athlete by NFL standards. Matt Corral, a little bit more so, but he had a game where he had like 20 carries in a game for Ole Miss this past season. That's not going to be a designed run game quarterback. And I just think there's just a lot more development needed in terms of being passers for those two, Sam Howell and Matt Corral.
Yeah. If you were a team, let's say the Panthers, the Falcons, or the Seahawks, or I guess, actually, let me rephrase this. What is the best? Malik Willis is your number 1 quarterback.
Yep.
Not like it matters. If he has success, and a lot of people have Willis first, so it wouldn't be weird, but like, you want him to have success as your number 1 quarterback. You want everybody to have success, but you get the point. Well, yeah. Where's the best landing spot for Willis in your mind?
Probably Atlanta, where he doesn't have to play immediately. Like, I think that Falcons organization realizes, hey, we're not very good. We have Marcus Mariota, who has the connection to Arthur Smith, but we're not going to be that good this season. And maybe Malik Willis starts a few games in December when they're like 7 games under 500, I would be fine with that. But I think ultimately with Terry Fontenot there, who was in New Orleans forever, can build up that roster and kind of do what you were just saying, Will, like get offensive linemen, add back to the receiver group. They have Kyle Pitts. If he was in Seattle, I don't think that would be the worst scenario, especially if DK Metcalf is extended and Tyler Lockett is there. The Seahawks have a long history of making some strange picks in the draft, especially in the first round. So I don't know if I trust John Schneider and Pete Carroll at this stage of their careers to build up this team that was really carried by Russell Wilson. So probably Atlanta, where there wouldn't be a ton of not only pressure to not play in week 1, but high expectations, or a coach that's on the hot seat that feels like, hey, we need to win right away, which would be the case if you were in Carolina.
I
think Carolina, Malik Willis, I mean,
would be bad. That would be really bad.
Yeah. The other thing about Carolina that I think, Wilson, maybe you pointed out in the last I don't want to talk about the Panthers anymore, but I mean, what if Sam Darnold beats the rookie quarterback out in training camp and you have to play Sam Darnold and you're like, that's just something to consider. All right. I will play the role of Josh Edwards, who is not here because he has lost his voice, in case you're wondering what happened. And it's weird. Breach is reading the rundown right now. What is he doing in there?
Breach is weird. He could have stopped it weird.
Yeah. Kenny Pickett 1, Malik Willis 2, Matt Corral 3, Sam Howell 4, Desmond Ritter 5.
So it's basically he sort of splits the difference between me and Traps.
Yeah. It kind of works out well.
I'm looking for Prisco's top 5 to be the game breaker, but go ahead.
He hates all the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Do you remember when in 2017 when everybody kind of hated all the quarterbacks? Like people were like, like Mahomes has upside, but like tons of downside too. And it's like, Deshaun Watson, can he operate in an NFL offense? Mitchell Trubisky, 12 starts. I don't know.
All right, here's Pete's too. We'll add these in. So Pickett 1, Ritter 2, Corral 3, Howell 4, Willis 5. So he is not a Willis guy.
He hates Willis.
He doesn't like little quarterbacks.
Or mobile quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Pete's rankings there, Traps.
I just can't see with how much upside Willis has. Even if you see the interceptions against Ole Miss, Middle Tennessee State, you have to agree that the upside is there. And that one quick thing, Daniel Jeremiah, awesome, super insider, whatever. You can't have a quarterback so low on your big board just due to positional value. I think we all agreed Lamar Jackson wasn't a perfect prospect, but to have him at 47 or have Malik Willis in the 3rd or the 4th round, you have running backs ahead of them. It just doesn't make sense from a positional value standpoint. And if you are a team, whether you're the Panthers, Falcons, Seahawks, whatever it may be, the Steelers, it's worth rolling the dice on someone like Malik Willis, because if you hit, your team is completely changed and you're a Super Bowl contender or you're a playoff contender. If you get that really good edge rusher or Jordan Davis at nose tackle, it doesn't really move the needle very much. So that's kind of baked into my love of Malik Willis in this draft, is that I just see the upside being a franchise-changing quarterback. When, like I mentioned, the 3 young guns, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Justin Herbert, none of them were seen as or viewed as sure things. It was I don't really know if they can, get rid of their accuracy concerns, or Justin Herbert, like I said, is too timid. Mahomes makes bad decisions. Well, all 3 of those quarterbacks worked out. That doesn't guarantee that Willis will, but because it did, their ceiling being so high, now those are 3 Super Bowl contending teams that they have those quarterbacks.
So DJ just had Lamar low, right?
He had him super low, and it's just weird when I see big boards where there's 2 running backs in the first round and 3 nose tackles, and then a high upside quarterback at 47 or 86. I'm how positional value needs to be baked in if you're just evaluating the entire draft class. You can't have Saquon Barkley at number 2 overall in a draft when there are other. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what I'm saying. That that was a terrible pick just because of the positional value, and I think most draft analysts, media members like ourselves said, hey, Saquon's great, but you have Josh Allen sitting there, you have Josh Rosen, you have Sam Darnold, and you're picking a running back over it. It's always weird when I see quarterbacks that have high upside like in the second or third round when there's other positions way less valuable inside round 1.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, I have Des Ritter 91st on my big board. Here's the thing, though, and I mean, I don't disagree. If you like Des Ritter, take him in the first round. I don't have an issue with that.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
the only issue is the Carolina Panthers. They shouldn't take a quarterback. But in general, roll the dice because you're not going to your point, Traps, the Jaguars keep drafting edge rushers. They keep winning 2 football games. So maybe they should do something differently. But the other issue is, and if you take Malik Willis or Des Ritter, whomever you love, you might get Mr. Trubisky or you might get Josh Allen, which is what I've been saying. The thing is, when you start taking guys after the first round of quarterback, they're gonna bust. You're just almost wasting picks. You're gonna get a Derek Carr once every 20 years. You're gonna
Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins. It happens more often.
Well, Russ is 3rd, Kurt's 4th. But my point is, after round 1, so that's 3 quarterbacks out of probably 300 after day 1 that you're hitting on.
So you just spare.
Yeah,
that's why they're like this.
But that's kind of to my point that if you like a quarterback, just pick him in the first round. Like I
get it.
Really see a need for like, hey, pick a quarterback in round 5 and hope he works out. It's like that's where you get a nose tackle. That's where you pick a running back.
But I have Des Ritter 91st overall because I don't think he's.
If you hate him, that's fine. If you
I don't
hate
him,
fine.
I like him a lot as a person. I just the accuracy concerns.
You know what I mean?
are real. And that
I mean, well, I was gonna say on the big board stuff too. Like I sort of side on the idea that you should give a grade. I mean, when I say you, I mean draft analysts. Like I'm not going to go do it, but like give a grade for all the guys, and then let that dictate where these guys slot in. I get that you push guys up a little bit based on positional, or based on positional value. Quarterback's more important, but you also have to worry about the fact that let's say you're the Steelers and you have Jordan Davis graded as like a 6.8, and you have Malik Willis graded as a 6.4, and Malik Willis and Jordan Davis are both there at 20.
I think you pick Willis all day. I don't think you hesitate and you say, I'm picking the most valuable position over to me.
Well, here's the other.
We're talking about Jordan Davis, but it's a low value position.
Here's the other math that you have to do if that's the case in those 2 picks. And honestly, I don't know where I'd lean if the Steelers were there and what they had. It'd be close for me. But here's the question I would ask you, Traps: is Malik Willis better than Mitch Trubisky right now?
I think so. I think he can make throws that Mitch Trubisky hasn't really ever made.
But is he better? Like, can he go out there September 15th, whenever the first game is, and he's going to give you more than Mitch Trubisky can? Probably not, right?
See, I think he could, especially with his running ability that we've seen. Russell Wilson,
Mitch can't do much, but he can run.
I don't think but I don't think he can run to the degree of Malik Willis. I think he could. I think he could.
My point is that it's not clear that Mr. Trubisky, like Trevor Lawrence, you're like, oh yeah, no.
Okay, I get that.
First, no kidding. We're taking Trevor Lawrence. We're taking Justin Fields all day long. Like, that's not even a thing. I think the question with this draft class in general, not just Malik, is that you're not convinced. Like we said, it was at 6 with Sam Darnold. Kenny Pickett may not be better than Sam Darnold, and that's sort of the issues you have to deal with there. But I understand what you're saying, and actually. It would be close, like Malik versus Jordan Davis there. And I probably would lean towards Malik with the understanding that he just won't play next year, and that's okay. I'm okay with that.
All right. Let's
what are you laughing at?
Me?
Something else other than work?
Yeah,
of course.
I looked down, there's like 42 unread texts, and I was like, I didn't see an alert for it because I have the thread muted, but it was the Prisco Jamie Costos thread, and like Jamie's driving his car right now, and his car is like doing the read your text. Oh it's some stuff else, and it's pretty vile.
Hope the kids aren't in the car.
Yeah, I know. If the kids are in the car, they learned about 42 new words that you really shouldn't know until you're 35 years old, if ever in your life. All right, let's take a break, and when we come back, which guys are our guys most confident in, and who are they most worried about from the quarterback perspective? We'll tell you next.
The United States is at war.
We know what we have to face, and we are ready to face it.
I'm fighting to make women equal.
The president needs to get his wife under control.
It's time all these little chocolate girls know that their lives matter too. Sometimes you have to forget politics, do the right thing, and trust the rest.
It's not easy to be confident in any quarterback in this draft class, but I'm going to ask you guys to do it anyway. Wilson, if you had to, pound that, you're in the the draft room. You're the junior assistant of player personnel.
Assistant to the traveling secretary.
Yes, assistant to the traveling secretary, which is really, frankly, funnier than assistant to the regional manager.
Yeah, infinitely funnier.
Yes. You have to pound the table for one quarterback. You're confident that this quarterback is going to succeed at the next level. Who are you pounding the table for?
By the way, quickly, I'm rewatching The Office with my 15-year-old, and we're on final season 9. Sure. Season 9 isn't as terrible as I remembered. It's actually it's watchable.
Who's season? What's season 9?
Season 9 is when obviously Michael Scott's long gone. Andy Bernard's running the show. They get Clark and the other guy, I can't remember his name, that's sitting in the back, and the other guy ends up dating Pete. Clark and Pete. Clark has the glasses and the sort of crazy hairdo. The only issue is about season 9 is that Pam and Jim are working through their issues, and I don't give a crap. I didn't think those two should have gotten together in the first place. I never was huge fans of either one of them, but everyone else, not terrible. So just to sort of tie a bow on the Office and Seinfeld conversation.
How many seasons were there of The Office?
9. 9's the last.
Oh, no. 9 was terrible.
9's when Jim tries to start the sports media PR
I
firm.
didn't even watch it. I didn't finish The Office. I stopped at like 8.5. I was like, enough is enough.
Yeah, it's watchable. There's some funny parts, basically with the new guys.
It's watchable.
Yeah,
the James Spader.
Oh, Robert California he's awesome.
Is he?
He's great. I thought D'Angelo Vickers sucked.
Who?
Will Ferrell.
Oh yeah. He was bad. The Idris Elba stuff was kind of bad too.
I didn't realize it was him till like 10 years later.
Idris Elba was maybe like my first, maybe like my most random celebrity encounter of all time.
Where was that?
In a bar, the Natty Green's pub in downtown Greensboro, North Carolina.
What was he doing there? I think he told the story. What was he doing?
He was watching we were all there watching the England-US World Cup match.
This is 2010.
2010.
Sweet mercy.
I think it ended in a draw, right?
Yeah, because the English goalkeeper gave up a terrible goal. How did you know who he was in 2010? Luther?
The Wire, maybe?
Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah, my brother Charlie was definitely like, that's Stringer Bell. I was like, what you talking? Stringer Bell's in Greensboro, North Carolina, watching a World Cup game at the upstairs Natty Green pub. Right, Charlie, that makes all the sense in the world. And you couldn't even Google stuff on your phone at that point in time. I don't think there's somewhere there's like
a razor,
a shoddy picture of me in Idris Elba.
You did harass him, though. Of course you did.
Yeah. Please.
By the way, Traps, one of my first interactions with Brinson when we worked together at AOL Fan House is that he went to a Hooters and harassed John Daly, who was trying to mind his business and eat some buffalo wings.
Nice first impression.
I actually hold on. Hold on. You talk about your love for Matt Corral real quickly, and I want to see if I can find something.
Oh, okay. Hopefully it's John.
Well,
Daly
actually,
related.
what I was going to say on The Office is I'm a firm believer, and maybe I need to rewatch season 9. Once Michael Scott left, I thought the show took a significant nosedive. Like it was hard for me, even season 8, because I think Michael left after season 7.
I think after the end of season 7, either 6 or 7. Yeah,
8 and 9, they were still funny, and you're certainly drawn to a lot of the other characters. But like you mentioned, D'Angelo Vickers, it was like Will Ferrell is going to be awesome, and just that character was
didn't make sense.
I did like Robert California a little bit more. I think it kind of fit with the show, like he was kind of Michael Scott-esque. But yeah, maybe I need to rewatch season 9 because I remember watching some of it and I was like, every episode I'm normally laughing hysterically. Now I can't. Yeah. No, I was saying that I think for me, after Michael Scott left, it was just significantly downward spiral for that show.
It is I would in the past, before my son was old enough to watch The Office, I would just watch it all the time. And I always quit it after season 8. I wasn't going to watch season 9. But now that I'm watching it because he wants to see it, it's it's fine.
I was trying to find out. I have a signed hat, a John Daly signed hat, somewhere.
From that picture's still on the internet, like an archive.
How many beers was John Daly deep when you saw him?
I think Brinson had more beers than John Daly did in that.
Really? That would. If you can tell that story and say that you at that one sitting at Hooters had more beers than John Daly, that's the perfect.
But Daly was doing an autograph signing thing. Remember,
I thought he was just chilling at the bar, having 50 beers.
Yeah, remember, I followed him around the golf course at the Wyndham Championship, and in a practice round, and detailed exactly what he consumed over the course of the 18 holes.
Oh, I don't remember that.
I wrote about it for Fan House, and it was like 23 cigarettes.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, just like 1.5 per hole, just like lighting one off the other. 3 packs of peanut M&Ms, I believe.
he drinks a lot of Coke too,
and
right?
9 Diet Cokes.
Yeah,
It was
geez.
disgusting.
That is a walking.
And then he went and drank probably.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
just no big deal for him.
I think the beer would have been the healthiest thing. He should have been drinking beer as opposed to all the other stuff.
No, I know.
All right. So anyway, my guy Matt Corral, I've sort of made the case for him already. I think he's not the most ready. I think Kenny Pickett probably is, but Kenny Pickett is not without his flaws. But I get it. But I think Matt Corral, even though Treps disagrees, and that's certainly okay, I think he offers the best combination of being able to play sooner rather than later, and then upside down the road, because I think he's going to get better. Again, so much this matters about fit. I mean, if you go to the Saints or the Steelers, you're going to have a much better situation than if you go to Carolina or Houston or wherever, just because that's just the nature of things. The infrastructure there is much better. Like I'm trying to think. So if Justin Herbert went to the Jaguars, that team would be the exact same team we saw last year, I would imagine. Put Trevor Lawrence on the Chargers, they're probably really good. I just think that's the qualification I'll make on Matt Corral. And again, it's hard to get excited about any of these guys, but I'm going to stick with Corral. We're riding this thing over the cliff like Thelma and Louise.
Interestingly, I found, and I'd forgotten to look for it earlier this month, but April 11th, the Cubase projections from Football Outsiders came out. It's actually behind.
Oh, what'd they say?
ESPN paywall, but I just always find those. I find them interesting because typically they've done a fairly good job of assessing who might become a quality NFL quarterback, but with a certain kind of obvious misses. Like they missed Russell Wilson, and it was like the write-up was like, our system loves Russell Wilson, but it's dinging him for his height. You know, it's I mean, like, Kenny Pickett's 1 with a 26.2 chance of becoming an adequate starter, which is somehow higher than Trevor Lawrence's adequate starter number from last year. But worth noting that Trevor Lawrence had a 25% chance of being upper tier, 25% chance of being elite, which is an insanely large number. So he's like 75% hit rate. They have him at Kenny Pickett at 16% upper tier, 8.1% elite. Their number 2 quarterback is Matt Corral, 25.7% chance he's an adequate starter, 15.6% chance upper tier, 7.7% chance that he's elite. Noting as a result, the big question mark is how he will adjust to the significantly more complex NFL game. Our projections are aligned with this hesitancy, but they also give a 23% chance of developing into an upper tier or better starter.
What are the metrics they're using? Like obviously height's one of them because the Russ thing.
It's college production is in there is a big factor too. I think like number of starts, etc. I think there's a methodology thing down here at the bottom.
Yeah, I'll look at it real quick.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about the 2020, the pandemic stuff. Our main dependent variable is total DYAR per attempt, which we defined last year when compared to the more traditional blah, blah, blah. You can read about it.
Yeah, I'll read about it.
Anyway, Kenny Pickett and Matt Corral 1 and 2 is Kenny Pickett, the guy that you would stump for, Traps, as the best chance to succeed, or are you going in a different direction?
See, I thought this was like Debo trying to like trick me or something, because it was like, who's your guy? And I'm like, my number 1 quarterback. Like it's not just with Malik Willis that I just am only rating him there because he has a lot of upside. I think, and I mentioned this before, with his running ability, he can be a lot like Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, and Josh Allen. Early in their careers, they clearly were not ready to start. Especially Josh Allen and Russell Wilson. They would look at their first read and then take off and run. And they had that upper level athleticism to, throughout their rookie seasons, kind of wade through the water without being disastrously bad because they could pick up first downs with their legs. So I think that's like the floor element of Malik Willis. I love Football Outsiders, but I do remember they were the ones that wrote Josh Allen is a parody of a quarterback prospect because I think his whatever.
I mean, he didn't work with the advanced metrics. I mean, that's just
no, absolutely not. So I bet if you keep reading, they're probably low on Malik Willis, especially if that factors in height. And Malik Willis is not even 6'1". He's got to be super low on their metrics, which is a weird tie-in back to Pete. I know you guys have mentioned that he doesn't like the smaller quarterbacks, and Malik Willis is short. But Pete Prisco was spot on about Josh Allen and said, like, they're drafting their next Jim Kelly. He's my number one quarterback. Their college careers and styles are almost identical. Like, bad decisions, big arm, take a lot of sacks. Like, that was Josh Allen at Wyoming, and that's Malik Willis at Liberty. So, like Ryan is saying, I'm not loving any of these quarterbacks, but if there's one guy, just because of the athletic prowess that he has and the arm talent, that I think will be able to at least stay in the NFL for a while, it's Malik Willis.
All right, I'm going to take the reins for Josh Edwards here, and I'm going to say that Kenny Pickett is the guy I'm most confident about as a player. That is actually Josh's pick. And when I say confident, I think it's, again, you're making a projection on a bad quarterback class. This is the closest thing that we think that we've seen to since 2013. Yeah. Although quarterbacks more so now than 8 years ago, 9 years ago, whatever it is, have a better chance of succeeding in the NFL, I think, than those guys would have. Like, I'm not saying Geno Smith. I mean, Geno Smith's still playing. Mike Glennon's still playing. EJ Manuel's out doing ACC Network. But I just feel like you have a better chance of getting a average to below, like slightly below average or slightly above average draft prospect working out or being functional as a player now than you would have 9 years ago. And I think Pickett is probably the safe answer here, mainly because of his floor. Like, Pickett is, I feel like you draft Pickett and maybe you get maybe it's Andy Dalton. Does that seem like a fair comp for Pickett?
Absolutely.
Pickett,
for sure.
Pickett floor.
For
I mean, look, Andy Dalton, you take Andy Dalton, right? If you're drafting Kenny Pickett in the second round.
To the playoffs 5 straight years.
You're not taking Andy Dalton if you draft him 6th overall, though. That's the problem. I mean, that is just the inherent problem with how these drafts are valued. Like, Wilson, what would if the Steelers draft Pickett at 20, what's your?
I don't want him at 20. I would take Corral and Willis there. I'd probably be pretty even on them. Like, again, they're so closely ranked for me. That's not. I'd rather have probably the Steelers trade up for like a Sam Howell or maybe even a Matt Corral into the second round, like early second round. I don't want Kenny Pickett. I mean, I get it. Kenny Pickett's played forever. He wasn't very good 2 years ago, came back and did really well this year. He didn't have the Joe Burrow type season, but he had a really good season. And like I said, I've talked to teams that said he struggled reading coverages. And you hear folks on, when you hear folks on TV talk about it, they're like, oh, he's so great pre-snap. He struggled at times based on the folks I've talked to. I've also had other people say, I think he's better than perhaps you're hearing. I said, I get it. I mean, who the hell knows what to believe at this point. But there are throws, especially in that Tennessee game, you go back and watch that, where he leaves guys that are wide open for checkdowns. And I mean, taking checkdowns are fine, but you had an opportunity to throw a guy who was wide ass open for a 30-yard gain and you passed it up or you didn't see it, and it happens more than once. That's just a concern. Again, like you said, Andy Dalton, if that's the floor, that's great. But Andy Dalton went in the second round, a pick before Colin Kaepernick. So that feels more like the range. And I think we're being honest with ourselves. I'll put it to you this way, Traps. If Kenny Pickett's in last year's draft class, when is he getting drafted?
Man, probably second round.
Yeah, that's my point.
Definitely second round.
That's my point. So either he's a second round pick or he's not. And he's not.
Yeah. That's fair. It's like you shouldn't be. Positional value is positional value, but you shouldn't be pushed up to the 6th overall pick just because you got a team that didn't plan well for what might happen at the quarterback position. And look, I'm not trying to.
It's like this. It's like you're at the Mercedes dealership. They're all out of Mercedes, but they have a 1983 Toyota Camry. Okay, I'll pay $80,000 for that then because that's the best car you got left. Let's take it. Yeah,
it's like it just happened to be there on the day that they were out of Mercedes.
Yeah.
I mean, all right. So looking at Kenny Pickett's stats, Kenny Pickett wasn't a day 2 draft pick coming into last year.
No,
right? Like
maybe late day 3.
Yeah, that's right, and that's why he's admitted. That's why he came back.
And look, I mean, like pandemic season, weird stuff happened, but you start to look at his statistics from last year. If you take Western Michigan, which by the way, Pittsburgh lost to Western Michigan last year.
Lost to Michigan and Caleb Ellaby and Traps' guy Sky Moore.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so let's take the Western Michigan game, the New Hampshire game, the Georgia Tech game because Georgia Tech is trash. That seems fair. The Duke game because Duke was trash, and the Syracuse game because Syracuse is trash.
I was at that game. The Syracuse.
And I say that as a an avid ACC supporter.
Their defense actually.
You could throw the Carolina game in there too, just because Carolina's defense was not good. Is that fair?
It was a rainy. That game was sloppy. I thought
Carolina game?
Yeah, it rained the whole time.
Okay.
It was in
All right. Well, let's throw that one out there. But so we got Cuse, Duke, Georgia Tech, New Hampshire, Western Michigan. That's 5 games. In those 5 games, he totaled, I think I did that right, 22 touchdowns and 2 interceptions.
That's good.
I mean, that's good, but it's also like
he threw one of the interceptions in that Syracuse game was him just throwing a long bomb downfield and it was intercepted. It wasn't.
It's also over 50% of his production from a touchdown pass perspective.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. I don't want to ding him too much for that. I mean,
look, he beat up on bad teams. Like that's what you're supposed to do. He didn't have a bad game, I don't think, this year. I mean, maybe you could say the loss to Miami, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, 519 yards, 70% completions. I mean, he didn't have like any stink bombs.
No.
And so that's what I think is sort of why you feel like
he's the safe answer.
Right.
It's a safe answer.
Yeah.
You don't take the safe answer at 6. You take the safe answer in the second round.
I think so, yeah. We'll see.
What about buyer beware? Prospect you are most uncertain about? Wilson.
Kenneth Pickett III.
I
just think as a 6 overall guy. Even if if the Panthers trade down in that made-up trade I had with the Saints, they get to 16 and take Kenny Pickett there, I feel better about that. If the Giants had taken Daniel Jones in the middle of the first round, I think we all would have felt better about that as opposed to 6 overall. I'm fine with that. And again, I don't want to make it sound like I hate Kenny Pickett. I don't. I think he did a lot of things really well last year, and he did some really good things on tape. But just 6 overall, none of these quarterbacks are worth a 6 overall pick. That's just basically my standard answer about who should go in the top 5 or top 6, and the answer is no one who plays quarterback this year. So buyer beware, top 6 for Kenny Pickett. Take him at 16 or 15 or wherever. Go nuts. Good luck to you.
What about look? I mean, again, like I think you could really pick any quarterback for any. Like, I mean, you feel much better doing the buyer beware game than you do the pound the table for the
definitely.
Traps.
And one thing,
who's your buyer beware guy?
It's Sam Howell. And just one quick thing on Ryan saying trading back. If a team trades back, say the Panthers, and they still get Kenny Pickett at 15, 16, whatever it is, you also have to bake in like the extra picks that they would get with that trade back. So that would certainly add some value just to the decision to get Kenny Pickett as well.
I mean, all it goes from Kenny Pickett to Kenny Pickett and player X.
And absolutely. Lower contract.
So, for sure. My guy is Sam Howell.
Oh, sorry. Hold on. Sorry. One more thing on Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
If let's say he goes in the first round
and
you pick up his 5th year option, do you know how old Kenneth Pickett will be at the conclusion of his rookie contract, including the 5th year option?
29 or 30.
29.
Yeah.
That's old.
There are a lot of Traps has talked about this a lot. There are a lot of old guys in this draft, in part because of the COVID year, so they came back.
Sure. But I mean, that's a very fair point. But it's like you are then going to be giving a quarterback his first contract at age 29, unless he's great 3 years in and you pay him. But I mean, he's just an older prospect. That's it's a thing.
This would be for a different podcast, but I'm wondering because we're going forever.
What do you think about Office Season 8?
I know, right? How different is this going to be?
Who is the older quarterback prospect that's actually turned out to be good? Because Carson Wentz was old, Baker Russell Wilson. There you go. Yeah. But that's 2012. But first rounders, Baker's older, Carson Wentz was older. Brandon Weeden was 28 when the Browns picked him in the first round.
Brandon Weeden's older than I am.
28.
That's crazy.
They took a 28-year-old quarterback in the first round, thinking, "Oh, maybe someone over the last 7 years just missed something." And like, I mean, what are we doing?
Yeah.
To the point about trading back too. One more. I mean, I know we got to move on, but you go look at the 2019 NFL draft. If the Giants take Josh Allen, the pass rusher, or even TJ Hawkinson, the tight end, at 6. And then come back and take at 17, instead of Dexter Lawrence, you take Daniel Jones. Like, and Wilson has pointed this out, I think. It's like the entire way that we view that draft is changed. The way we view it has changed completely.
For sure.
If the Panthers take Kenny Pickett at 19, it's like, all right, like, maybe they got a little more value by trading back and people kind of give them a little leeway. You draft him at 6 and people are on you from Jump Street to see whether or not he's any good.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, you're
Oh, one more
Buyer
question.
beware.
Traps, do you
Okay.
think that
What's up?
who's better, Daniel Jones or Kenny Pickett? If you're starting a team tomorrow, who are you taking, knowing exactly what you know now about them?
Kenny Pickett, because I don't think he turns the ball over as much.
I don't know. He has
That was a big concern. That was a big concern for Daniel Jones, though. I thought he threw a lot more interceptions and was like a fumble.
He's living up to that hype.
Yeah, he lives up to that with the Giants. My buyer beware is Sam Howell. I know he's the youngest quarterback of this group. Like he's 21 years old. I've kind of had like a change of philosophy with Sam Howell that everyone's saying, hey, all of those, Daz Newsome, Diami Brown, the running backs, they left. He didn't have anything. I think that those guys elevated him early in his career, that there's a lot of RPOs, screen passes, easy throws. He had these dynamic NFL caliber skill position players around him. Then he has a little bit of a bare cupboard this past season. Josh Downs is a good player at wide receiver. And I thought his deep ball accuracy was not nearly as good. I think he holds onto the ball inside the pocket a lot. And I said it earlier, he ran a lot. I like his toughness. He's not going to be able to do that in the NFL. He doesn't have the body to withstand all the hits that he's going to take. And he's just not a high level athlete.
Try to run through guys. I mean, like it's like he would try and.
Well, you made Traps angry with that take.
No traps for you. No, Traps has same thing happens to me all the time. He did this last time too. But yeah, I mean, like Sam Howell would try to like drag 2 to 3 defenders into the end zone when
he and Matt Corral both do that. They can't. You got to. That's not sustainable. That's RG3 level nonsense.
Carson Wentz level nonsense.
Right.
I mean, RG3 just didn't know how to slide.
But again, it goes back to Russ, who you just talked about. He's better than anyone in terms of not taking hits and being mobile. He doesn't run as much now as he used to, but I think absolutely the issues with taking hits is not sustainable.
Yeah, what happened to Traps is what's going to happen to Sam Howell if he tries to run through defenders.
Going to get blown up.
You just evaporate like Thanos snapped his fingers or something.
Thanos.
Somehow Robbie has figured that out too. And like if I say something he doesn't like, he'll walk up to me and be like, I'm like, did you just snap me out of existence? He's like, yeah. Cool. I can't wait till you're 10 and 12. My God.
Yeah. What is he, 8?
8. Cusses like a sailor.
There you go.
Let's run through sleeper possibilities at the quarterback. Josh picked Carson Strong, by the way, as his buyer beware. I think Pete Prisco's I don't know if he's done this publicly, but whatever. Repeatedly described his Carson Strong's knee as like a bunch of spaghetti noodles, which is not a medical term, but not not a good thing either. So yeah, I think buyer beware for sure on Carson Strong, especially if it's you're drafting in a day 2 situation. No chance he's a first rounder, but
yeah, I don't think he goes on day 2 either.
Probably not. He's probably a day 3 guy. But speaking of day 3 guys, who's a sleeper? Traps. I'm going to you first because I love the guy you're naming. Bailey.
Yeah, Cole. I'm going to say Cole Kelly. Was that my?
I thought you were saying Bailey Zappi.
Did I write Bailey Zappi in the email? I didn't.
Yes, your small school. I'm revealing the behind the curtain stuff here. Your small school is Cole Kelly. Your sleeper is Bailey.
Oh,
Zappi.
sleeper is Bailey Zappi.
I'll tell you what. Let's combine small school and sleeper because we're already running long.
Yeah, I'll do Bailey Zappi. He's my number 6 quarterback in this draft class. He threw he broke Joe Burrow's record, like 60 touchdowns.
Out of Western Kentucky, by the way.
Yes, Western Kentucky. And a lot of what I mentioned about Malik Willis with the big time throw ability, like there are a lot of really impressive throws, 15 to 40 yards down the field from Bailey Zappi. The system is completely wide open. They basically run 4 verticals on every play and just let him chuck it all over the yard. But I like that a quarterback would be coming in with a really aggressive attitude as opposed to someone that's really conservative and wants to constantly check it down. Not a great athlete, not going to really extend plays, does that a little bit, but he could be a sleeper 3rd, 4th round that could ultimately be a pretty good backup in the NFL.
And your small school?
Cole Kelly from Southeastern Louisiana. Started at Arkansas, started a few games, had a big comeback against Ole Miss a few years ago, transferred to Southeastern Louisiana. He's like 6'7", 245, and he's another one. That offense was just like 4 verticals, post routes, the whole 9, just down the football field. Has a big arm, and weirdly at like 6'7", 250, he kind of looks like Ryan Mallett, but in that small school level, like he tried to run around like he was Josh Allen. He definitely cannot do that when he's in the NFL. Took some big hits too at the FCS level. But Cole Kelly, 6th or 7th round, I would be fine with the team just saying, hey, he's 6'7", he's 24 years old too. He's got a big arm, big guy. Let's just see if this guy could stick as, you know, a developmental type down the road.
Sorry. I saw a quote. I like almost like snarfed all over my microphone. This is amazing stuff. And I know, again, Panthers podcast, so we'll loop it in. This via David Newton of ESPN. I'm assuming Joe Person and all our buddies there in Carolina have this as well. Ben McAdoo asked if he looks at Sam Darnold as his starting quarterback. Didn't hesitate. Yes. He later said he put his foot in his mouth, naming a starter, saying, quote, "That is something I shouldn't have said," end quote.
Oh my God.
You can't make it up.
I mean, that's a long eighth dimensional test.
No, I named Sam Darnold the starter. As it turns out, I, as the offensive coordinator, don't actually have that ability to name a starting quarterback.
Yeah, it's not a points out between this and the Rock Hill track practice facility cancellation. A lot of weird stuff going on in Carolina.
Oh yeah, good call. I mean, that Rock Hill thing is a mess, man. I mean, they like did a bunch of anyway. I do sort of wonder if that might inform
the Rock Hill
thoughts on no Ben McAdoo's comments. Like, is it possible that Ben McAdoo's been told we're not drafting a quarterback at 6?
No. I think this is 8D chess. I think he's just trying to do the double drinks reverse. Like he's
Uno reverse. He's trying to
Uno reverse. He's switching the tables around like in Princess Bride, and asking you to drink the poison.
And he doesn't know which one's the poison.
And he ends up drinking the poison.
That's right. Sam Darnold is the poison. Wilson, who's your Edwards sleeper? Josh's sleeper is Jack Cohn, and his small school guy is Dustin Crum, who I assume is Denny Crum's great grandson.
Nice, Denny Crum, same haircut. Dustin is Kent State, I believe. I
don't know anything about either of those people.
That's okay.
Yeah. Oh, I'm fine with it.
Caleb Ellaby is my sleeper. We mentioned him earlier in the Western Michigan game when they beat Pitt. He's probably a day 3 guy. I think I had him going in the 4th round, my 7th round mock draft. He won't go that high. But he does a lot of things really well. His issues, and this is a pretty big issue for quarterback, is turnovers. Played well, as I mentioned in that Ball State in the Pitt game. He and Sky Moore were just taking it to the Panthers. And I was talking to Scout about him. He said, go watch the Ball State game. The Ball State game, he looked much less good. But there are flashes of him being really good. So I like him. I like the upside there. The turnovers are a huge concern. You have to get over that. So, and my small school guy is EJ Perry out of Brown. Like watching Brown games is pretty crazy. Just because it's Ivy League football. And Traps talked about Cole Kelly thought he was Josh Allen. I think EJ Perry thinks he's Josh Allen too. Has a pretty good arm, transfer from BC. He's a little undersized. He can run a little bit, but he makes a lot of like head scratching decisions trying to fit balls into tight windows. But I mean, you want a little gunslinger in your quarterback. He's not going to be an NFL starter, but I think he's the guy you could have at the bottom of the roster on the practice squad with a chance to get better there. I don't think anyone probably had a day 2 grade on Ryan Fitzpatrick. The guy's been playing for 50 years, so you never know.
All right. Any other thoughts on the quarterbacks? Oh,
there we go, then.
Traps is out.
Traps said, see us.
He's out. All right. On that note, let's get out of here before he comes back in. Then we have to
flick the lights.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. For Wilson, for Traps, I'm Brinson. We will see you guys later.